Hi there, and welcome back. I'm Stephen, and today I'm talking with Mike Maven, the founder of TopGrowthExperts.com. Mike, it's great to have you on. How are you doing?
Yeah, thanks for having us on, Stephen. Yeah, really well. Happy to be here and looking forward to sharing some valuable information.
I want to start this story at the beginning. I understand that you really got into this business when you were at college.
Yeah, that's right. Basically, back in 2001, I found myself pretty broke in one of the most expensive cities in the world, in London, and was going to university and just kind of started experimenting online, selling a couple bits and pieces on eBay, and just kind of learning the platform. What I kind of found was that there's certain products that when I sold them, I would hit a specific price point with the items, and I was trying to sell as many sort of custom things as possible. And then I came across a PDF, kind of like a workbook, and when I went through that and I applied the kind of learnings, I found that I was able to pretty much double the price points that some of the items would reach. By doing that, I was kind of making way more money, and just the fact that I realized I could increase some of the sales and the prices of certain products just by rewriting the text and the sales copy was quite an amazing sort of revelation to me. I've had the sort of marketing bug ever since then.
Yeah, understandably so. I'm curious, was there sort of one piece of information from that book or just one tip that you got early on that sort of like flicked a switch for you and you realized how important these sort of small tweaks can be?
Yeah, so I mean, what I really it wasn't just one piece of information that I could really point back to, but what I didn't realize that I was learning was direct marketing skills, and learning those skills and kind of applying them to how, adding more value into the product and kind of describing a little bit the process of how it was made, just kind of letting the end buyers kind of understand more about how these products are really kind of created and where they come from. It really just helps to kind of like, put in the value and let people just think, right, okay, it's not just a product, but actually there's a lot of energy and time and money that goes into building these products, which then made them see the product as way more valuable. That was really helpful. And when I kind of put that into text and learned how to communicate by keeping the writing simple, and it just kind of did wonders for the sales. And to me, that I saw that when many products, even today, when they're being sold online, they're missing out on a lot of those steps.
Mhm.
And just by clarifying, I mean, it's the same information that I was using 20 years ago, which I still kind of put into practice today, but just more refined. It really helps to increase sales. And today we're able to do that for many of our clients, which is really useful.
Let's hear a little bit more about what you are doing today. You're the founder and CEO of Top Growth Experts. What does your company do? Yeah.
Yeah. So today, what we kind of do, we help companies to increase their online sales and their revenue. And we kind of do that without them spending more money on ads or needing more visitors. So it's really like an efficiency thing. We take the number of people who are arriving at a website already, but we help more of them to buy. So usually when people come to a website, what you'll tend to find is people have questions and objections. They might be sitting on the fence and they might just need a little bit more information, or which kind of helps them buy. And a lot of times manufacturers don't really do a good job of explaining why people should buy, or helping people to buy, or really kind of learning what these objections are.
Hmm.
And once you kind of really understand what those objections are, you can make changes to a website and any online sales process, which then eliminates many of those objections in people's minds, and it just allows them to buy. So the way that I kind of describe it is you're really removing the friction from a sales process. If you have the skill of being able to locate a specific piece of friction in a sales process and then remove it, it allows many more sales to flow through. But if there's multiple friction points within the sales process and you know how to kind of remove many of them, you're able to literally increase the sales revenue by big leaps.
Yeah, so that makes a lot of sense. But I am curious if you could describe kind of how it looks from one of your clients' perspectives. Yeah, what is this process like for someone who is looking to remove that friction, as you said?
Yeah, so I mean, there's many ways which it can take place. So I'll give you an example. One way is it could be a sales, let's say there's a sales page which they present information in a specific order. A lot of times one question which we find is really answered on people's sales pages: what makes this product unique or different from other people? And
Mhm.
the question that manufacturers really find, what we find that they need to be asking is, why should somebody buy from you right now instead of somebody else, or instead of doing nothing at all? Because that's the options they have. And so you really need to be able to answer that question very specifically and then communicate that information on a web page. And we find even just by answering just that one single question, or building in factors which manufacturers haven't previously thought of, and then displaying that to customers, it helps their sales tremendously.
Interesting. And a similar question from a similar perspective. What makes you different from your competitors? What is the advantage that you provide over similar services?
Yeah. So other competitors, they look to provide growth through something which we call the growth addition model. So it makes perfect logical sense. So it's all about more, more, more. Obviously, if you need to grow, you need to add more. So you need more budget to buy more ads and get more attention of more people to kind of click on the ad so that they can
Mhm.
get more visitors to their site and grow sort of tactically like that. But the method that we use, you don't really kind of need anything that we don't need more budget or more people. Instead of adding more, we work on sort of removing the sticking points and the friction points. So what we do is we call it the growth subtraction model. Where is the hidden friction exactly, and what's kind of stopping people buying? So we locate the subjections and the causes of buyer friction, which are usually hidden, and then we remove them to kind of create a lot of growth very quickly. And no one really kind of understands the growth subtraction model like this because it's just something that people don't focus on, and it doesn't really kind of make logical sense, and it's just not very widely understood. But that's pretty much how we're different from everybody out there, and it's how we're able to deliver really big growth results quite quickly.
Yeah. Well, so could you maybe give a couple of recent examples of that kind of growth or, just of other sort of successes you've had in removing friction like this?
Yeah, sure. One particular case though that comes to the top of my mind. It's a company called iwillteachyoualanguage.com, and what they do is they're a language learning company. And we did 3 projects with them and increased sales. One of them literally like 2.6x their sales.
Wow.
And what we kind of found that they were doing was they weren't really being very specific about the value of their product. So what they used to do is they help people learn languages, but through something called story. You listen to the story and it helps you kind of go through certain points. And really, it's like a very immersive experience. But because it's very esoteric, it doesn't, people didn't really understand how it worked. And so what we did is on their sales pages, we made sure that people kind of really understood the process. There's examples now given on the page of how people can learn through stories. We're using metaphors just to help people understand. And it really kind of we added, a better offer for the product. We added some bonus items. We added some trust factors to kind of talk about where the product had been seen in the media and how the founder had been featured and had been interviewed across like major radio stations about his product. He speaks 7 or 8 languages, and we added probably what I can consider is the craziest guarantee out there in the whole industry. And the guarantee literally was you've got 365 days to use our product. And if you don't like it, come back within that time. We'll give you the money back. We'll also buy you a competitor's product.
Oh, wow.
So it's the craziest guarantee ever, and it really put him on the line. But you can only make a guarantee like that if you know your product is really good and does what you say it's going to do. So it's a case of like building more trust, letting people understand more about how the product really works, and so really working hard to remove those friction points, which all came up in our research process, which we do at the start of every project. And many people they start making changes to a website without that research project. But you have to do the research first so you know where the sticking points are before you start making tweaks on the websites. And that's a massive error that people usually make, is that they start making changes without really understanding where the friction lies. So it's a 2-part process. You've got to, 1, do the research, find out where the friction point lies. And then 2, you've got to make the changes based on the data that you collect.
Yeah, so it's not a one size fits all approach, I guess you're saying. The friction
Yeah.
points are different depending on what you're looking at.
It's different every time, and it's a very sort of custom, sort of like tailored work. It's very, it's very unique to every single business. So although there are similarities which can come up, and they do, there are overlaps, but a lot of the time it's very custom work, and many companies don't really know how to do that by themselves. So that's kind of where we come in.
Right. So, Mike, what are a few things that you and your company have learned that you wish more companies knew about, sort of common mistakes or just little known things that can prevent company growth?
So basically, there's kind of 2 parts to growth, but most people think that there's only one side to growth. Then one side is, kind of what I spoke about earlier, which is adding more speed, which everybody, focuses on. But the lesser known side, which is, I'd say, the other half of growth, is about removing the friction in the sales process. And it's kind of, I liken it to back in the early days of making faster cars. No one really knew about air resistance, and how it kind of affected the car, because essentially it's invisible to the eye. You can't see it. So only a few people understood it and were working to remove it. But those who did understand aerodynamics, they made unbeatably fast cars. It's kind of like what I'm talking about now. In the future, everybody will focus on sort of removing these revenue threats, because you just can't run at full speed without it. And growth is just like that. The first half is the addition part of it, which I spoke about, everyone knows about. But the other half is that subtracting, the hidden friction that people don't really companies don't really do that on their own because just of a blatant knowledge gap. And, when it comes, I'd go so far as to call this, it's like on one side, this is like a secret because it's not conventional knowledge really. That's easily carried out, like I think as baking a cake. But then on the other side, it's not a total mystery. Like it's not impossible to carry out, like the quantum gravity problem. It sits right in the middle. Do you know what I mean? Like it's a secret, but it's hard to uncover, but it is doable. So it can give you an edge, and it is very important, but still unknown by most people. So it's not really used to produce sales and revenue growth, but that's what we do for businesses. And we've got really big case studies where we've kind of really broken down how we run the process and how we produced a lot of growth very quickly.
Yeah, that's interesting. I mean, I'm guessing that there are probably some pretty big companies that we could think of that have actually been, leaving growth on the table by not paying more attention.
So many. It's billions of dollars which have been left on the table annually. I've gone through the mathematics, and it's a crazy number. I tend not to mention it. It's like like $47 billion like annually, but I don't really mention it out loud because people would just be like, "That's crazy. That's impossible. This guy's a big." But I mean, I can show you the data behind it. It really is. It's a crazy number.
That is wild, but it does make sense. I wanted to just look forward a bit here. We're about a third of the way through 2022. What is in store for you guys in the next year? Is there anything on the horizon that you're looking forward to implementing, or just even anything further down the road that you're excited about with your company?
Yeah, so I mean, we're currently looking at how to break off smaller pieces of our core offer and make them available as smaller, less complex pieces. So we're talking about conversion audits or making sure servers that just make sure sales process is correctly set up from the beginning. Just all things that we've been doing for years, but rather than kind of offering it as this one big expensive chunk, now we kind of offer them as just standalone pieces for interested business owners who want to kind of grow their online sales and revenue. And I think what that will enable us to do is kind of walk in with a more specific offer at a fixed price point, and then just deliver that value from the beginning and use that as an introductory service to sale to kind of prove to people, look, we really do have your best interest at heart. We know what we're doing. And, just to kind of show early on that, we can grow your sales and revenue by quite a lot.
Yeah, this may be a little bit, I don't know, tricky to describe in the space we have here, but what would those chunks look like?
So one piece would be, we know that a lot of people, they have issues with their site, and what that can look like is like people don't really kind of trust their site. So if you just come to any website and you don't really know what this company is, or you don't really know much about them, you might see a product you want to buy, but a lot of times we find, especially with new companies, it's very difficult for them to generate trust. And one way that we found that people can do that is by getting some sort of press coverage, and after which they're able to display certain logos on their site, so they can say, "Oh, we've been featured in, Forbes or Inc. or Fortune." And just when consumers come to websites, if you've got something like that on your site, it just generates instant trust. And so for years, we've been offering to people, as part of our core service, that like a PR sort of side of it, where we help them get into some of the major media publications. But now we're thinking about, just offering just that as a sort of like a trust building exercise just by itself, which then people can use to increase the conversions on their website. So that would be just one of them.
Yeah. Okay. No, that's a great example. Well, I thank you for joining me and explaining that side of growth to me and to our listeners. Yeah. Is there anything else that you would like to talk about before we let you go?
No, that's everything. I mean, it's a good kind of sort of coverage of what we do for companies. And yeah, I think if anybody's interested in, learning how to grow a company, or they want to see how we do our work, you can give me a shout. You can just find us at topgrowthexperts.com and contact us there. I'll be happy to help.
All right. Well, thank you, Mike. It's been a pleasure. Thanks so much for coming on.
Thanks, Steve.